Good morning and welcome everyone to the Ultimate Coach live book reading. We are going to experience a beautiful time together today, entering into chapter 25, The Sky's the Limit. And I'd love to pass it over to my beautiful co-host, Miss Olga Campora. Thank you, Olga.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. My great pleasure. I would like to welcome everybody here. So good to have you here, everyone. It always takes an effort and intention to show up somewhere. So thank you for your commitment. And I would like to just take a moment now to really acknowledge the incredible and inspiring Amy Hardison and Anandi Thompson for their magnificent commitment for creating this book of being called The Ultimate Coach. I see myself that this book of being continues to plant seeds all over the world. Just look at us, where we are coming from, it's just amazing, to look just kind of all different kind of parts we are really tuning in. So thank you so much for being. And, it's really incredible how this book is planting the seeds internationally, around being, and how it's creating just kind of, really impact and ripple effect on those willing to read the book, and especially read it in a way they read about themselves. So today we are going to be in chapter 25, and it's the chapter that's called The Sky is the Limit. Whoa! What a really amazing, just kind of, part of the book we are getting into. And what is really incredible today is that we have very great readers today. One of our guest readers is Nick Devling, aka Sanskrit name Mahita Ishaya, which means the praise goddess, the honor goddess. And then we have also Georgia Bazin from London. So thank you, ladies. Thank you for both of you for saying yes to today's reading as we dive a little bit more deeper into this chapter 25. And it is really great pleasure to have both of you to read for us today in this community and space that we are creating to read from the book, The Ultimate Coach. And this event is a co-created space for deep experience of the book and further exploration of being within the community that you are. And as we begin today, I would like to just, do something different so that we can a little bit connect with each other. So the sky is the limit, okay? And it says here from Jonathan Kaiser, the quote is, when you are in that room, you really feel like anything is possible. Think about this room. You feel like whatever you want to do in life is attainable. You feel like whatever you want to achieve is within your grasp. There are no limits. So I want everybody, just for a second, because there is the word sky. Can you look out of your window just for 10 seconds? Just pause, look out the windows and look at the sky. And I would like you just kind of, just express, within your heart, what is the first word or the feeling you have when you look up into the sky? I'll give you 10 seconds. Just look up. And then go, right? Just kind of, what you have. And we have peace, thank you, Vanessa. Overcast, yes, me too. Freedom, expansion with no limits, depth, God. Free, freedom. Awesome. Thank you so much. And the other thing now, this is going to be a tricky one because we are humans, right? Yes, freedom, Kathleen, thank you. Guys, also, can you look at the table at the desk where you are? And today I want you to pick one thing of when you have on a table that you know that it doesn't belong there. And just pick it up like, you know, I have a top of one of the drinks that I had, okay? But, you know, the reason I'm, you know, look at that, you know, knife, right? A mask, a tape, you know, a phone. I see a towel, right? I see some rock. I see a Martinelli drink. Okay, you know, sometimes, you know, it's just really interesting that, you know, we can think that there are things in our life that, you know, are not important. But I also want to suggest as a possibility, this is a part of creation today, at least on my desk, you know, and so I don't have to get rid of it. It's going to, you know, be with me here. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much. Just, you know, getting together, right? So I really just kind of want to acknowledge the presence of, you know, all of you. And as Steve offers, you know, Steve Hardison offers to consider, the intention for this space and this book reading is to expand yours and my state of being. So please knows that while, you know, we are going to have a space to share, that the acknowledgements are not meant about one another, but we just kind of, you know, are going to just kind of actually share things that are shifting within our being while we are going to read the chapter. So if you feel called to acknowledge someone, you know, we ask you that you reach out privately or on the TUC Face group and use it as just kind of, you know, your opportunity to deepen your connections. So also, of course, when you read, we would love to have you an intention that you read about you. What does it mean today for you to read the book about you? And when you listen, listen about you, listen from your heart and out of your heart. And when it comes to share, share about you from your heart. And with that, I really would like to just kind of, you know, ask moderator two, beautiful Maria, to take it away. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Olga. Thank you. Thank you. Well, welcome to everyone here. So happy that we're all together today in this appointed place in each of our lives. And I'm so excited to hear your shares today and to really see how this book is affecting you. Because like Olga said, it's all over the world and it's uniting us as people. And for me, that means everything to join with like-minded people who want the same things as I do: love, harmony, peace, love for myself, love for others, service, all those things. So thank you all for being here and for being examples of those for me. Thank you. And so, of course, I want to send my welcome to our special guests, Nick and Georgia. Thank you so much for being here with us today. You know, we think a lot about on Team Tuck about the people that we think would be the most, you know, relate to the chapter or most effective. And so we're so excited to have you both here. Very, very thank you so much. Um, let's see. Okay, it's that time. Do you have your book? Physical copy of the book? Oh, good. I like it, Amy. Very good. All right. So is anybody here for the first time? Could you just raise your hand, Damien? I thought you were, I hadn't seen your face before. Nice. Welcome. So happy to have you here. Would you be willing to read the back of the book for us? If you don't, that's no problem. But if you would like to,
Okay.
can you put, oh,
Okay.
there you are. Okay,
Okay.
so it's gonna be just a moment. So I'm gonna have you read, and then I'm gonna pick somebody for the front of the book, and then we'll go from there. So if you can hold for just a moment, we'll be right back with you. Okay, is there anybody else? Austin, I see. I don't know if I've seen you before. Are you here? Okay, that's no problem. Is there anybody else who would like to read the first two pages? Does anybody feel called to read those first two pages? Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you. Okay, So here's how it's going to work. We're going to have reader one, Damien, read the back of the book, and then we'll have Elizabeth read the front of the book. And let's see. And then we'll go straight to Georgia because she's our first reader, and then on to Nick. But before we do any of that, we are so excited, Nick, that you are going to share with us today what has landed upon your heart for today. So if you would unmute and share with us, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I feel really drawn to read out a short poem. Some of you may have heard this before, but it just really spoke to me. And maybe you want to close your eyes. Yeah. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. I will meet you there. Thank you, everybody. That's not me, it's Rumi.
Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful share. I'm definitely going to look that up and place that on my wall. It for me at this moment is very, very apropos. So thank you. Okay, so just as a reminder, we'll have Damien do the back of the book. Thank you again, Nick, so much. Damien, back of the book. We'll have Elizabeth do the front, and then Georgia just jump right in. All right, and then followed by Nick. Okay, and remember that when you share afterwards or when you're listening while they're reading, remember to listen about you. Remember to listen for something you want clarity on, maybe something that just sparks your heart when you're hearing these questions, or a question that you come up with yourself. So remember that when you share, please share about you. That's why we're here. We're so interested to hear about you and your journey. So please, please share about you. All right, Damien, if you would start us off. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book, exploring you to read it. I veto that. The only testimonial I'm interested in is the one you will have from reading and experience this book. Please do not read this book about me. This book is about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who are you being is everything. Love you, be blessed, be you, Steve Hardison.
Before you begin, note, thank you for reading the back cover and the first 2 pages each time before you read this book. I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend, Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being. and it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work that I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you. Steve Hardison. P.S. Remember, every time you reread this book, please read the back cover and the first 2 pages before you begin. If you do this, your experience of this book will be totally different.
Chapter 25, The Sky's the Limit. When you're in that room, you really feel like anything's possible. You feel like whatever you want to do in life is attainable. You feel like whatever you want to achieve is within your grasp. There are no limits. Jonathan Kaiser. The feeling, the sky is the limit, and here are your wings, is one of the constants in coaching with Steve. For 30 years, Luna Viva Ananda had been a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. She loves that her career has given her the opportunity to serve people and make a difference for those with debilitating mental illnesses. Still, something was missing. She says, I didn't think I was sharing everything I have to offer. I was 64 years old and my calling had not been fulfilled. Luna felt compelled to bring spirituality into the medical world, the business world, and the marketplace. She explains her vision with a metaphor. I can go to the river Ganges and drink of the sacred water and feel blessed. But not everyone can go to the river Ganges. So how do I bottle Ganges water and put it at Starbucks? Spiritual transformation is a critical need in our world today. While her vision was clear, how to get there was not. Who was going to help me see the bridge from my medical profession to the work I really wanted to do for the next 10 or 20 years of my life? Luna found her answer during the COVID pandemic of 2020. Grounded by the quarantine, Luna was getting her exercise by walking around her property in Scottsdale, Arizona. She was accompanied by her daughter, Mira, who was aware of her struggle. Standing under a palm tree, Mira said, Mum, there is this coach named Steve Hardison. Steve's name sat in Luna's brain. She couldn't dislodge it, so she started searching the internet. She found that people come from all over the world to see him, and he is basically in my backyard. She knew she needed to meet him. As soon as the quarantine was lifted, she took Steve's first available appointment. When she drove up to Steve's house, her flag was flying. As is typical, they visited in the living room for a little while. Steve then prepared to enter into the sacred space of his office, also typical. Not so typical, they first took a walk in Steve's Zen garden. Luna relates. We were walking and Steve showed me where he meditates every day. We walked some more and we saw rows and rows of names written on his wall. These are the names of people Steve has met and worked with. And there was Luna Viva Ananda. I can't describe the feeling. I had been struggling so much with identity, the professional, medical identity, and the identity of someone who's got more to offer. This struggle is reflected in my name. I have two names, Dr. Purnima Mahita and Luna Viva Ananda. Luna Viva Ananda was given to me in a shamanic ceremony a few years ago. In Sanskrit, Ananda means joy, bliss, and the highest state of being. When I saw Luna Viva Ananda on the wall, it was almost like he gave life to Luna Viva Ananda in that moment. My name had meaning and purpose. I felt a new sense of hope and optimism. I thought, okay, I'm at the right place. It felt like a confirmation. When they stepped into the office, Luna expressed the desire to sit on the floor instead of the couch. In her tradition, it's very common to sit on the floor when you are doing deep work, whether it's meditation or talking to your guru. You always sit on the floor. I can't imagine sitting on a sofa trying to do work that serves the spirit and the soul. Sitting on a sofa just feels like it's not in alignment with the whole vibrational process. So Steve and Luna sat on cushions on the floor. Luna shared her conundrum with Steve. I don't want to be locked away in this medical field. It has purpose, it has meaning, it is something to give humanity. But I feel that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for something bigger and greater and more meaningful. I would be so happy to be able to practice and bring about that kind of spiritual work in the world. Steve was moved. He said, if it weren't COVID time, I would be giving you a hug. But since it is, we're going to do a COVID hug. He then kissed Luna's feet and said, I want to acknowledge the work you've done. It was a startling reversal. A student kisses the feet of the guru. Tears streamed from Luna's eyes. It was the most precious thing that could have ever happened. It was a moment of reverence and acknowledgement. In the brief 2 hours of Luna's Be With session, she realized, Steve is my bridge, and he guarantees he is my bridge. So I'm good.
How is Steve the bridge to living the life of one's dreams? First and foremost, Steve does not believe in limits. He sees no obstacles. He is a pit bull for possibility. When clients share their dreams, Steve never reels them in. Melanie Waite says, Steve says, tell me what you want and we will get it. We will create it. I don't care what it is. He can do that for his clients because that is how he thinks and how he lives. In Through the Looking Glass, Lewis Carroll's sequel to Alice in Wonderland, Alice exclaims a person can't believe impossible things. The Queen responds, I dare say you haven't had much practice, but when I was your age, I did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Steve eats impossible things for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He breathes impossible things. He swims in impossible water. None of it looks impossible. Nicholas Smith remembers sitting in the parking lot outside of a church-run commodity resource centre. He and his wife had just picked up groceries because they couldn't afford to buy them. Nicholas relates, I got on the phone with Steve and he spoke to me in a way that no other human being has ever spoken to me. Even now, I get emotional as I think about it. I asked him, can you? He said yes before I'd even finished the question. I asked, how can you say yes if you don't even know what I'm going to ask? There is nothing you can ask that's bigger than me. That response impacted me. It became the foundation of my book, The Giants and the Smalls. When Carla Rottering sat in Steve's office, she mentioned that she had just read something by Bruce Lipton, a stem cell biologist and the author of the best-selling book, The Biology of Belief. He is the recipient of the 2009 Goy Peace Award. Carla mentioned to Steve that she had incredible respect for Bruce Lipton. Steve responded, so let's call him up. What? Said Carla. Someone that famous, someone that busy, someone that important? Isn't talking to your hero a little scary, even intimidating? The next thing Carla knew, Steve had Bruce Lipton on the phone, and Steve was handing the phone to her. Carla thanked Bruce for his book and his work, and then handed the phone back to Steve. Steve thanked him for taking his call and for making Carla's day. Before hanging up, Steve told Bruce how amazing Carla is. So that's that, said Steve. Now you've talked to Bruce Lipton. Nothing about connecting with Bruce Lipton looked insurmountable or even difficult to Steve. It was just a set of actions to take, like picking up a gallon of milk at the grocery store. When Steve served his mission in London at 19, one of his companions was Paul Waite. They baptized the Dixon family, and at that time, Melanie Dixon was 8 years old. Fast forward 24 years, and both Paul and Melanie were single. Steve told Melanie that she and Paul were perfect for each other. Melanie wasn't sure. Paul was 12 years older than I. He was divorced. He had 4 kids. We lived in different countries. Steve's response was, and? Melanie was used to thinking outside the box. She got her degree in education, but when she realized that teaching wasn't working for her, she left a secure profession and she became an entrepreneur. She created businesses. She saw possibilities, but Steve took her to the next level of no limit thinking. Paul and Melanie were married in 2005. Steve performed the ceremony.
Steve also revamped Michael Neill's thinking about limits and possibility. Michael writes, on the first day of our coaching together in 2009, I was going through my goals for the year with Steve, and I got to the 7th item on my list. I hesitated when I saw it, as it had been on nearly every goal list I'd written for the business since we began more than a decade earlier. While our income had certainly crept up each year, we had never really even come close to what seemed like a mythical target. It felt like a waste of time to even speak it, like a New Year's resolution. To read the 50th greatest novels of all time or learn Italian. That would make the list every year without ever making it out of my head and into the world. I said to him, well, I was going to say make over $1 million in my business, but I put that on the list every year, so we can just ignore that one. Whilst he didn't speak anything out loud, I noticed his left eyebrow arch as if to say, we can leave it off the list if you like, but it would be just as easy to create it. Somehow that raised eyebrow did more for me than any piece of coaching I could imagine. The legendary Steve Hardison didn't think it was silly or stupid or childish for me to make $1 million. Maybe not having done it for so many years in the past didn't mean it couldn't happen this year. Maybe it didn't mean I was a bad person to want it. Maybe even a loser like me could make it happen. Maybe, just maybe, it was really possible. When we crossed the $1 million income threshold, just over 11 months later, I remember thinking, I wonder if that raised eyebrow was deliberate. The next time I saw Steve, I asked him about it. He had no memory of it. Not my hesitation and doubt in speaking of it, or his lifting of an eyebrow, which led me to the two conclusions that have influenced my coaching to this day. One, things look impossible to us because we can't imagine doing them, not because they can't be done. Two, the impact of a coach comes far more from their being than their doing. Had making $1 million look like a big deal in Steve's world, no amount of positive encouragement would have dented the sides of my already made up mind. But since he was living in a world where pretty much anything was possible, no amount of negative storytelling on my side could dent his. Steve's attitude is contagious, Clayton Mask notes. Steve doesn't have limits on what's possible, so he changes the way you think about limits. I don't know anybody that sees possibility like he sees possibility. He just sees stuff, and you can't help but start to see possibility when you work with him.
Paradox. The paradox about Steve is that he is masterful at seeing both people's limiting beliefs and their limitless possibilities. Billy Woodmansey says of being with Steve, it was like he jumped inside of me and saw the part of me I don't show anyone. Then he put up a mirror and showed me how these things limit me. Jordan D'Angelo says of his sessions with Steve, time stopped as we dove into everything that I had created in my mind that was limiting me. Once clients see their limiting beliefs, Steve helps them understand that the only limits that exist are those structured by their own thinking. Then the real fun begins, bringing untethered possibility into existence. For Steve, the line between possibility and reality is gossamer thin. Possibility is a reality. Only time differentiates the two. And Steve holds time like Einstein did. It is illusory and relative. Possibility exists in the present for Steve. For some that put him in Steve Jobs' camp, a creator of reality, distortion fields. For others, it makes Hardison the consummate vision holder. Clayton Mask notes, he's your greatest cheerleader. Undeniably, he speaks your possibility to, for, and around you. He slathers you with possibility. Melanie Waite says, Steve would describe me in a way that is phenomenal. I don't always see that, and that's really moving to me. It is very empowering. As a teenager, Sebastian Hidalgo worked for Steve, taking care of his yard. Sebastian relates, my work days at Steve's house quickly became one of my favorite parts of my week. There were times when Steve would bring his clients outside to meet me, or Steve would invite me into his office to present myself to his clients. On one occasion, Steve invited me into his office. he was meeting with a client who was the head of a multi-million-dollar corporation. He told his client that if he had the work ethic of his 14-year-old landscaper, his corporation would be producing at a much higher level. That is one of Steve's gifts. Steve sees people's gifts regardless of age or experience. Brandon Sulsa is a survivor of 14 different traumas: a brain injury, a broken neck, freezing to death and being revived, and a head-on auto collision. He has a master's degree in social work. He is also paralyzed from the waist down, and author of the book, We Are All Paralyzed. Brandon says, Steve loves you more than you at times. No, Steve loves you more than you at times love yourself. He sees more in you than you see in yourself. He sees a future that I've always wanted, but never thought I could achieve. John Ver says, the reason I keep coming back to Steve is because he keeps helping me see new possibilities for how I can live my life. Steve sees impossible futures, at least 6 before breakfast. He eats impossible things for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And he invites you to the table.
Vignette, Jody Ver. Oh, I'm doing Heidi Boyd. I'm sorry. I was pulled to this man. I knew I had to work with him. At this point, I had just enough money in my account for a Be With session. And I knew that was exactly where this money was meant to go. I sent him an email letting him know that come Monday, I would send him a check. And if he would let me know his first available time, and I would be there. On Friday, with my nerves in a bundle, I awaited Steve's call to set up my Be With session. The phone rang in the evening. Heidi. I heard the kindest sing-song voice, which I'll never forget. I felt I had known Steve my whole life. I felt at ease immediately. The conversation was quick and to the point. We agreed to the upcoming Monday at 2 p.m. Perfect. I was informed that this was my time with Steve no matter what. If I didn't show up, my investment would be forfeited. Got it. This man meant business and I was on board. I thought about flying to Arizona, but my account was dwindling. I decided to drive. I would get up and leave at 5 a.m. to give myself 7.5 hours to get there. It's a 6-hour drive. I would leave about 4 p.m, getting back home by about 11 p.m. I was excited about my road trip. It would give me time to think, process, and reflect. Monday morning at 5 a.m, I was ready for my adventure. I had my car checked out, gas tank full, and all of my courage in my hands. I'm going to meet Steve Hardison, and my life will be forever changed, period. With The Greatest Showman soundtrack on play, I headed out. It was dark and the roads were quiet. That was soothing. Sipping on my coffee with coconut milk. I enjoyed the ride and the sunrise which soon followed. Everything was going smoothly. In the back of my mind, thoughts whirled about, what will he be like? What will happen? What does his house look like? What am I doing with my life? There was a quiet and steady knowing that this was exactly what I was going to be doing right then. My heart was brimming with hopeful exhilaration. I pulled out my breakfast with the sun rising steadily ahead. This is the greatest show. I went through a terrific ordeal of running out of gas in the middle of the desert and then rescuing myself. I was so glad to have an extra buffer of time. There was no way I was going to miss this appointment. At last, I pulled up to Steve's house. I parked my car and saw a text from Steve. It said if I arrived early, I could sit on his front porch under his umbrella. I allowed my emotions to settle. All the chaos was a distant memory. I was there. I was ready for what was in store for me. I had already decided the meeting with Steve would change my life. Did I mention that? The change my life part. I'm just saying it was important. I felt an airy calm and excitement at the same time. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was meant to be right there at that moment in time. The door opened. I looked to my right, and the sweetest 6'4" man walked out to greet me with arms outstretched. Okay, destiny, I thought, here I am. The session was a whirlwind, and I can't really remember what happened. It would be impossible to put into words. I only know that I went through a transition over the next 2 years. I believe this sweet force of a man was the catalyst, as well as support for it. My intention was to love my life. I never expected the experience of revelation, an unsurpassed state of inner peace that would follow. Meeting Steve is like an explosion of love. He puts rockets on your heartstrings. He is a dynamic, unbridled force of energy. He has the ability to take your heart and put it on paper and to form it into language so you can use it as a tool to recreate your life, the life of your dreams.
Vignette. Jodie Vare. Steve called me a day or two before my Thursday session. We're going to produce a miracle, he said. Another one? I asked. This one will make last week's miracle look like small stuff. Last week's miracle had opened my eyes to the fact that as soon as I wake up, I feel all this heaviness and negativity. As soon as my feet hit the ground, I am constantly judging and complaining. When I shared this breakthrough with my writing coach, Lydia Nibley, Lydia suggested I get a counter and click every time I had a critical or non-useful thought. I found a clicker on Amazon that I could wear around my neck. After just 2 days of wearing it, I took it off and I threw it across the room. I was exhausted from clicking it all day long. It was then that I realized I am a complainaholic. I had done the University of Santa Monica MERT therapy for my brain, a course in miracles, the way of mastery, and so much work with Steve. Sometimes I had a foot in heaven, and the next thing I knew, I was face planting into old patterns. At my coaching session, Steve told me that my desire to catch myself was beyond anyone he had ever worked with. I feel like I'm going to be clicking this thing forever, I said. I feel like I will never, ever get to the bottom of this. Click, click. I promise you, said Steve, it will get less and less and less. I needed to hear that. I needed to remember how far I had come. Currently, I don't drink and I devote every day to God and to my path. How big that is only makes sense with some background. You see, nobody knew I had a drinking problem, not even my husband, John. But when I drank a lot, fights would break out. Let's just say they were worse for John than they were for me. I sort of blanked them out. On July the 4th, 2018, John and I had a big blowout fight. This time I literally blacked out. And when I woke up, John was not next to me. I had a sinking feeling. What had happened? I realized John had locked himself in another bedroom. I knew better than to engage with him that day, but I did something stupid. I continued to drink, and it got ugly. I was suicidal, I felt possessed, and I was in a really bad place. When we went to bed that night, John fell asleep. For him, it was just Jodie freaking out again. But I stayed up all night, panicking. Had I ruined my marriage? I was tormented. I cried out, God, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this. I heard words, tell everybody everything. The first person I contacted was Steve. I texted him. At that point, I was hypercritical of my texts. I wanted every word to be perfect, but this time it was like, F that, just send it, hurry, send it. Then I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at John, waiting for him to wake up. As soon as he did, I said, I have a drinking problem. I told him everything. John and Steve were the two men in my life who had loved me unconditionally. Both were now enrolled in my healing. At my next coaching session, I walked in and said, I'm done. I'm going cold turkey. I didn't stop drinking. I chose a path with God. Some people can decide to stop drinking and have enough willpower to stop. I chose a path with God. That is why it is inappropriate to complain. God doesn't complain. I had come so far, and yet still I was discouraged at how much I was still complaining, if only in my mind. Steve helped me see the missing piece. What if, said Steve, every time you clicked, you said, I forgive myself for that judgment. Imagine yourself as the person you have created in your document, not from this is going to take so long, and have fun instead catching yourself in your judgments. Don't be devastated. As long as you have a mind, you will judge. Delight in being human. I started coaching with Steve in 2012. I look at who I was then and who I am now, and I am not the same woman. I love that woman. I have compassion for her, but I am so glad that is not who I am today. It is so cool to love myself. I got to this point by doing the work. Steve didn't do it for me, but he did help me see what was possible. His gift is to help people see themselves. Early in my first year of coaching, Steve said, Jody, I want to talk to you about Byron Katie, Werner Erhard, and you. I told him I couldn't believe that he included me in that distinguished group. I knew that would shock you, Steve said, but you are a powerhouse just like they are. At that time, I was still coming from IDM. I don't matter. I believe that was true. Steve saw who I really was. He saw my greatness, and he didn't let it go.
Let's just all take a beautiful deep breath together. Are you ready? That was so beautiful and so moving. Thank you so much, Nick and Georgia. That was, I don't know, there's something about your voices that just really speak to my heart. Oh, I'm gonna cry. And it felt like I was there with you, that we were all together. I don't know, it was beautiful, and thank you. And your reading is truly lovely. Thank you. And back of the book, in front of the book readers, thank you so much for doing that for us. I've said this before, and I truly believe that I love to hear other people read passages, not only because I love how it takes it outside of my head, but I also love that we don't think alike. And so when you share what you have, it makes me think something different that maybe would never have been opened in me. So readers, even front of the book and the back of the book, those, when you read that, it means something. So thank you so very much. Wow. Now sharing time, my favorite. So let's start with Damien. Damien, is there anything that you would like to share that came up for you today in this book reading?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's nice to be here with everybody. I've been reading the book and I've been poking around with Facebook and I haven't really participated. What I'd like to share is I made a lot of notes. You know, it's just funny when you hear other people reading and you can relate. I made notes, you know, possibilities, reality, you know, coaching from being, you know, drug and alcohol counselor. I am a certified drug and alcohol counselor, but I don't do that anymore. And all the, you know, Byron Katie, I got a scholarship there. Bruce Lipton, I read all his stuff. And what I'd like to share is, Steve, I've been saying this over 10 years. My words are, you know, this is who you are. It's bullshit. You know, that's who you're being. That's why I don't do counseling no more, because this is who you are and you're going to be this forever is not truthful. So, right now I'm started working with Eric Lofholm. He's going to do a course to be a speaker of being. It's going to start next week. And I'm like, okay, you know. So God's joke is when something shows up and it resonates. And today is perfect. Somebody said something on Facebook in the Ultimate Group Coaching. I just bounced in, bounced out. So I said something like, I like what you said, and I resonated. I don't know what I said. And somebody got on and they says, I like what you said very much, Steve Hardison. And I'm like, no, I don't believe this is, no, this can't be possible. So I text back. I said, this is really Steve. I like to have a chat. You know? So he texts back, okay, fine, here's my number. So can we speak now? I send a message back, can we speak now? And Facebook says, you are not friends with Steve and you cannot get through. I'm like, I just, what are you talking about? So I got mad. I said, you know what? This is about pursuing reality, maybe. I don't know why I'm sharing this. I says, he just texted me. How can I not be friends? So I called the number. The phone picks up. I hear him talking, walking around the room for a minute, and the phone hangs up. I'm like, all right, God, what is this? This is like, so I get, you know, when I get mad, I get more ambitious. So I got even more mad. I said, forget this. I'm like, I call again, and he answers the phone. He says, hi, this is Steve. I says, I just text you and you sent me your number. He says, okay to call. Yeah, fine. How can I help you? What can I do for you? The thing is, the guy was present. It was like you read, it was weird. Like, so anyway, I talked to him for a minute. I talked for 15 minutes. So anyway, we talk and everything. He said, how can I help you? Then he says, well, you know, who are you? Who are you? I want to know, who are you? And I says, I can only tell you a story about a minute long to tell you who I am. And he said, okay, go ahead. And I told him that, you know, I went to a meeting in school and this kid wanted to kill himself 4 times in a year. I asked this kid, who are you? He says, well, I'm a depressant. I said, how depressed do you get? He said, well, I tried to kill myself 4 times in the last 6 months. Nothing from me. No, it'll be okay. I didn't say nothing. I just looked like, okay. I said, when you get depressed, is that good or bad or right or wrong? Oh, it's bad. It's wrong. I says, wrong answer. He said, what do you mean? I'm telling this to Steve. I says, well, I get depressed. I get happy. I get sad. I get excited. And the kid starts laughing. I says, what is so funny? He says, I get it. So this is me as counseling, as a coach. I pushed it. I said, so what is so fucking funny? I says, you might wake up happy tomorrow and go to sleep happy. You might wake up depressed the next day and then be happy for the next 3 days. And the kid laughed even harder. I said, Steve, this is the deal. What I understand is the kid was laughing was because he tried to kill himself 4 times when he gets depressed. And the answer was, who gives a shit? And I says, that's why you get depressed. Who gives a shit? And the kid lost it because he got the answer. It doesn't matter. It's okay to get depressed. So silence for a minute. Then Steve says, well, I says, what do you, so that's who I am. He said, well, the only thing I can say is just be the most outrageous coach because that's who you are. So how can I help you? What can I do for you? He says, Damien, I got somebody here from Japan. I'm coaching them right now. Do you know how many coaches there are from here to Japan? Thousands. Do you know why he's in my office? And the guy's talking to me. I said, you know why he's in my office? Because nobody can be like me. And nobody can be like you. So be the most outrageous coach. So can I help you? I said, you just did. You validated me to be me. So that was a rude awakening. And this reading today is reminding me I didn't know how to be me, to be an outrageous coach. Like people, this is who I am. That's bullshit. That's who you're being. So the universe showed up. I'm going to be trained how to be a speaker of being through Eric to put this course out there. I have no idea what I'm walking into, but here I am. So that's it.
Oh my goodness, Damien.
What?
That was an amazing share. Like, thank you so much for sharing so much of you.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for, to hear about you and to be inspired from each other about what we're being. And, for me, what came up is I teach kids and I teach really tiny kids how to sing. So you can imagine as a 6-year-old, they're really not doing operatic type stuff, right? We're talking about standing and breathing. And so over the years, I had turned this coaching into sort of self-esteem coaching because that's really what those kids need at that time. And so they need to know they're enough. They need to know that what they have to offer is beautiful and that art isn't perfect and all those things that I offer them. And sometimes I felt like, okay, am I doing the right thing? Like I'm supposed to be vocal coaching here. And you just like really inspired me to say, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing because I know that I have affected kids. And maybe I'm not, outrageous, but I am intent on having these children love themselves. That is who I am. So I appreciate you.
It's funny you say that. I hardly coached in the last 3 years. And every rehab that I worked with, every person I worked with, I always worked with the worst of the worst. And within 10 minutes, I have them laughing. So people be yelling at me, what is wrong with you? You worked with the worst of the worst. Why do you still hesitate should you coach? And my thing is, this is who you are. Like, how can I say this right? Normal coaching, psychology, everything, you have to remember where you came from because that can show up tomorrow. And I'm like, what? If I run out of money, I'm not gonna start. If I run out of money, I'm not gonna start stealing cars and dealing coke. I'm like, I'm okay. So I'm against the grain. So I dimmed my light so low not to stick out. So this is why I'm showing up now, how to be not too rough, but to be a speaker. How can I say this right? It's okay to stick out. Like what you're doing is okay. What you're doing with kids is not normal, but it's a beautiful not normal. Like me, you're never who you are. You're always who you're being. So I want to see how to. I'm a living example of that.
Yeah.
So I'm working on to listen to It's Okay to Be Bright and Bold and be an example. So just like you're like, yeah, this feels good. Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, it's funny how we guess ourselves. Really? Really? It's like,
Right. So true.
so it's nice to be here. And this is a very good reminder. So thank you.
Well, again, I say thank you to you because, like I said, you're a good reminder that I just need to keep running in the direction that my heart tells me to go. And that's what I'm going to do. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Damien. That was amazing. Okay, Elizabeth, you're next. I know you had an amazing week, so I'm excited to hear what you're up to.
Yeah, thank you. This rereading this chapter with you, with all of you, it's kind of really hitting me. All the limits that I've placed just so casually on my life. And it's also been, a fun ride where I have woken up in the mornings and believed a couple of impossible things. It's like, oh, wow. I'm channeling Steve Artisan here. I believe a few impossible things. It's not even breakfast time. And it's really fun. It's really fun. And I kind of get, even with what Damien was saying, with what you were saying with the kids, with of course, reading the vignettes and the stories in the book, and this chapter in particular, the joy of reestablishing the sky as the limit, the joy of releasing self-imposed restrictions on myself that I have adapted through, family and cultural values and religious values and all these different things, and just watching them sort of dissolve a little bit. Just who said melting earlier? was that today? It was I have no sense of time. It was just melting. Maybe it was last week's. Just watching things just kind of melt effortlessly. I think is one of the main things I know in one of the vignettes, talking about clicking and clicking and clicking, and then at some point it becomes just effortlessly letting go for me. Just it's like I've engaged the intention, I've rested in the possibility, and now I can just let go. And so this chapter had too much. It's just so much. I could pretty much highlight every other sentence, I think. And so I'm just being with it again, and just being joyful in remembering this simple truth that Amy captured, and Alan, and all the people who told their stories, that Steve is that place where that reminder, it's like, who are you being is limitless. I mean, if that's how we choose to be, it is limitless. So and then of course from there, it's like, who do you want to call? What do you want to do? How do you want to show up? And just really beautiful. And I appreciate you guys leading, and the reading was really beautiful. Thank you.
It's me.
Thank you. Yes, Georgia. First of all, let me say, Elizabeth, you said something in here that I wanted to repeat because I thought it was so beautiful. You said the limits I've placed casually on myself. I just thought that was so brilliant. It's sort of the deception of the gradual, is what I call it, where you put this little limit, then you just kind of put this little limit, and you don't even notice that you're doing that. And the next thing you know, you try to do something and you have this monster in front of you and you're thinking, where did that come from? And it was that, that little bit that you allowed casually, which I love that, to come into our lives without kind of being our own like vigilance, and protecting ourselves from those kinds of things. So thank you. That was beautiful. All right, Miss Georgia, what a lovely voice you have. Now I'm a singing teacher and a vocal teacher, so I appreciate so much your beautiful voice and the way you speak. Thank you so much.
It was the one I was given. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you, Nick. And actually, what I'd love to say to start with is to acknowledge Nick, because we met having a cup of coffee, she having just finished her 5th session with Steve and me just going into my 4th with Steve. And we met on a beautiful Phoenix morning for coffee at 8 a.m. And it was an absolute blessing. Just that. And we've nattered back and forwards, and how this came about, which is really relevant to The Sky is the Limit and who do you need to be? Was Nick said to me, I've got an idea, but I don't know if it'll play out. But are you up for playing? And I just went, yes. And that's why I'm here. Just because it was a case of just saying yes, no matter what it was going to be, because she asked. And it's like anything in life, we really don't get anything if we don't ask for it. So that really just struck me as funny reading through this. If we say no, we never know what the possibility is. And yet so often we want to know what it is because we've got to be sure of it before we even say yes, that stops it already. Damien, I love what you said about how you think you have to be and behave to be a coach. Because the community that I come from, a 3P community, and there's very much a way of coaching from quiet. And I cannot be very quiet sometimes when I'm coaching. And I can sit in a lot of judgment about the fact that actually I want to go, excuse the language, but I'm going to use it anyway. Fuck no. There is a different possibility here. So probably very much like you, Damien, I've gone, I don't coach the way everybody else tells me I have to coach. And sitting with Steve, you learn there is no way you have to coach. And that's been a beautiful journey since, knowing that however I turn up, there is a difference of coaching noisily from quiet or actively from quiet. And Steve shows you that, even if you don't appreciate it at the time sometimes. And that's really cool. And the vignette that I read, the lady who said, I just knew I had to be there. That seems to be a universal truth. That if we're following through life, we just know, whether it's with Steve, whether it's wherever, there is a quietness to those decisions again, because it's God. Universal intelligence, whatever word you wish to use. You just know it. Thank you.
Beautiful. So inspiring. I have a strange share, but go with me here. All right. When I began seeking my spirituality and looking for God, I had come out of a time in my life when I was a crazy wild woman. I was following the Grateful Dead. I was having a great time. I was partying, doing all those things. And I walked into a Pentecostal church service where they were waving flags like at the Grateful Dead, where they were playing drums like at the Grateful Dead, where they were doing all this stuff that was so familiar. So familiar. So then when I began to seek God in that space that I was so comfortable in, I found God, my relationship with God. Now that seemed a really crazy way to go into it, right? But that's what reminded me of Damien and what you're talking about, Georgia. If I hadn't had that experience, I would not have made that connection, and I would not have a 26-year relationship and spiritual walk. And so I guess as a possibility, if we're not being who we are when we're coaching or talking, then we're possibly passing by miracles, right? What if the miracle you were saying, Damien, you said one of the kids started laughing. Brilliant. He understood. You didn't lecture him. You didn't do any of those things. You were you, and he understood right where you were, and you were the person he needed. If you had held yourself back, he wouldn't have maybe not have gotten it that day. So that's just what when I was listening to you, George, I was just so struck with, yes, we continue to work on ourselves. And I love the idea of everything from that quiet space, Georgia. I just love that because I have found a quiet space inside of me recently. This is new to me. And it's where I make my best decision. Right. And so when you were saying that, that really, really struck me. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Nick. We'd love to hear from you.
Hello, hello. I just want to say to Georgia, I could just listen to you for hours. It felt like just I don't know, like story time or something. And I feel incredibly grateful to, I want to say this, I feel incredibly grateful to Tanya because just for even getting me here, I will genuinely say I would have paid for each of you to sit with me and create what I'm experiencing right now, because as I was reading, I'm like, I started to get, that like prickly feeling down like the back of your neck, like, oh dearie me, the woman I have been. It's because it's late in the afternoon here in Scotland. The woman I have been is the woman with the clicker almost all day. So I feel like I've actually sat in therapy with myself, with you beautifully witnessing the like feeling. And I haven't had that experience before of reading something that I have read so many times. In fact, if you might have noticed, I actually said my own name at one point rather than Steve's, because each time I read the book, I change Steve's name to my name. So actually I can't see Steve's name. I can see mine, so that when I'm reading it. So I've not had the experience before of reading something which is so familiar to me, and yet resonated so powerfully. It almost felt like I hadn't read it before, like it went right underneath any radar of, oh, I know this. So I do. I feel like I've sat in therapy a little bit, going, oh man, gosh, because for those of you who've done the Enneagram, I'll say that because some of you will have done. Those of you who've done the Enneagram, my profile is Enneagram 1. So what that means is I am gifted. I'm absolutely gifted in the world at seeing what could be improved. It's a gift that you can't actually turn off, as in you can look at something and then go, oh yeah, but if they just tilted that picture just a little bit, it'd like be even better. Or walking into something that's absolutely stunning and go, yeah, but you see there's a black mark there on the tablecloth. So I'm gifted. Yeah, I am gifted at that. And sometimes it can be incredibly tricky. Because if I'm not really alert to my state of being, I could endlessly appear as somebody who wakes up in the morning exactly as Jodie, and all she does is complain. From my state of being, if I do it from that place, everything is a complaint. Like literally everything is a complaint. But if I'm far more anchored, instead I can smile and go exactly as Olga, you said this morning when we started about the table, everything is exactly where it needs to be. Everything is perfect. God does not need me to go, I know you've got everything covered, but I think you might just have missed the dust in the corner that I can see, you know? So that was the one thing that I was just like, oh yeah. And I also had a really beautiful moment when I was reading it, because probably also a little bit like Jodie, there would have been a time when I would have probably had a shame shit show in terms of seeing that in myself, because it's not always easy to live with somebody that can go, you see this Christmas tree here, I think we could just chip it, like we could just cut this and make it just slightly, you know. But actually it's really easy for me to laugh now and go, oh, quick reset. And it's one of the things I really just one of the things I really love about Steve is even when he sees something, he just resets so fast. Like he doesn't spend like a nanosecond in the I should have done it different, I could have done it different, if only. He's just like, boom, let's go. And I felt, and Tanya, I think I shared this story with you. I felt as we were reading out the chapter, I felt like I wanted to do another confession here in this space, because I laugh now, but at the time I was really embarrassed when I first decided that I was going to work with Steve. I was so drawn to this chapter on the sky's the limit. I was so drawn. And one, because I recognized the clicker. And just as you said, Georgia, there was just a real sense of, oh yeah, I'm meant to go and work with him. And as we all know, it's an investment, right? It's an investment to go and work with Steve. It's an even bigger investment with the travel, et cetera, et cetera. So I had a very different and similar experience to you, Damien, speaking to Steve, because when I decided I was going to go and work with Steve, which is almost like the exact opposite of what I'm going to say about the sky being the limit, I sat down with our team and mapped out how I could get the best return on investment. I mean, even now I'm like, oh my God, the best return on investment for this sizable chunk of money. And also how we were going to map it so that I could continue to run my business and also do my work with Steve. And we all decided after many hours of scheduling and rescheduling and whatever, that the best thing to do would to do 2 sessions 1 year and 3 sessions the year after. So I telexed the money, as we do, to Amy, and I think I put on the email to Amy, this feels like exactly the right thing to do. Like I feel totally that this is the right thing to do, and I probably won't sleep tonight. So I then proceeded to go and sit on my meditation chair. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And thought, right, I definitely need to sit with God. And the next minute, the phone went, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, sweet Jesus. Oh my God, like Steve Hardison is ringing me. And then I just hear this voice going, how are you doing? And it literally felt like God was ringing. I don't know if that was a similar experience to you. It literally felt like God was ringing. I'm like my voice went really high. And he said, I hear you're not going to sleep tonight. I was like, well, you know, and he said, have you got your calendar? And I'm like, no, it's 10 o'clock at night. Like I'm on my meditation chair. And he said, well, let's do it. So he said, I can see you a week on Tuesday. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. The thing is, like, I've worked it all out, and I need to come 2 sessions this year and 3 sessions next year. Now, bearing in mind, we were speaking in, I think, January. And there's just this silence. And are you still there? Are you still there? And he's like, yeah, I'm still here. He said, but I'm wondering where you are. And I'm like, oh, this is going to go really bad. I can feel this is going to go really bad. And I said, well, the thing is, you see, so you start, don't you? Start with and I'm sharing this because exactly as you said, Elizabeth, how easy it is to casually put limits on your life. And if we are not really alert, have people collude. That's what I saw, right? Because we had all as a team thought, yay, get us being really prepared, right? But how easy it is to have people collude but this is the way things need to be, or this is the best way of doing it, or whatever. And I won't go into all of the conversations, but it was a very short conversation, but it immediately woke me up to, if we are not alert, probably as well, because we are powerful people, we take people down a journey that doesn't serve. I mean, and it literally felt like it literally felt like being plugged into an entirely different life force, like with an entirely different voltage, an entirely different, I don't know, like, I guess exactly as we read about so consistently in the book, like there literally was no limits, but everything just melted. Well, I wouldn't say it melted, it burnt off. I mean, my experience, and it was again while I was reading the chapter, my experience was in being with Steve, it's like landing on the sun, not just because it's Arizona, but he is so hot. And I really loved that. I really loved that, because in that space, it's almost like I said to him, it's like, you know, you can have boundaries, and you get to Steve and it's like you've got a chocolate teapot, he puts hot water in, and you're just like left with your hand going, I thought I had a teapot. So yeah, that's what came up for me, just with you saying, Elizabeth, how easy it is to casually put your limits on, and you, Damien, around, there's just something about the power of speaking to somebody who just is not interested, and literally just I guess the way I experienced you, Damien, when you spoke, and similar to the way I experienced Steve, it's not that he's not interested from a perspective of I don't care. It's like he cares so much he doesn't give a shit. Like he cares so much that he's willing to say the things that other people won't say. And if I hadn't have spoken to him, I would have been like, get me, I'm doing this twice a year and 3 times, you know, and I would have entirely missed the point. And I really thought I was smart, you know, and I think I just wanted to share that with humility around and truth around, as I say, I haven't been, today has been such a beautiful reset for me around who I'm being, because it's really easy for me to write my declarations, to make my declarations every day. But here in this space, it shifts it from something that we do to a reminder of who we are. And it's That's what I got. That's what I got. That's why I ended up doing the sessions very quick, almost back to back. And of course I did. Of course.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing so deeply there. You know, I think we can all relate to that clicker. You know, whether we have a physical one or not. I actually did order the physical clicker. And yeah, gave that one up. It was too stressful. But it did bring such a great awareness. And I love what you shared about you know, being mindful of how other people are affecting, you know, that casual thing that we've planted in our lives. I just love that, to be vigilant, to protect, you know, to protect ourselves, you know, from moving away from who we are, really, because that's what it does. When Muji said, when you take on the shape of another person, you miss out on who you are. And I really loved that. I really loved that. And that reminded me of what you said, you know, coming back to you. And today being such a great for me as well. I had a very upsetting thing happen yesterday, and it turned out to be a miracle day, meeting amazing people in my community. And I guess it was kind of my tow truck moment, as Steve, you know, I didn't do as well as him, but in the end, it worked out well. But I just thank you so much for sharing from such a deep place. We all can relate to what you're saying. We all can. All of us can relate to those. All of a sudden, finding yourself like spinning in those thoughts that are not serving us in any way. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Well, as you can see, our time is rolling along, and so I am going to pass. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody here today. I love you all. I think about you guys all the time. I really do, and I love you. So I am going to pass this along to our Team Talk moderator, Mr. Harry. We'd love to have you come on. Thank you.
Hello, can you all hear me? I want to blame all of you. You know, like the time right now is in Vietnam is 11:30, and we to listen to all of you, it's make my energy was so high, and I'm wonder that can I sleep tonight? And with that energy, I when I wake up for like I was so in love today's section. It was just amazing. And so firstly, I would like to acknowledge the angel of the team. The first one is Tanya. Thank you for creating. Thank you for keep leading. Thank you for keep holding this and creating this experience. Thank you, Angel, Tanya, and all the team Tuck who have put the time, efforts on this creation. And oh my goodness, I have so much to love and to learn from today. Firstly, I'd like to say to our moderators, Olga, I just love the way you opened the experience today. I love your being of you're so spontaneous and creative. I love that, and I learned from you from that. And the second one is who are holding the space today, Maria. Unbelievable the ability of your heart was so open that you were being melted by what other people saying, that your heart was wide open and being melted by other people. I just love that so much. Thank you for holding the space and acknowledging people. And secondly, thank you for accepting the invitation today. I don't know how to call you, Nick or Mahita, whatever. Yeah, and Georgia. Oh my goodness. You too is one of the most beautiful reading today. Here's the thing that I just posted on my Facebook. You're one of the most beautiful reading today. Here's the thing that I never felt that, not rarely felt that when the people reading, they read the information, but when you guys read, I can feel that you are experiencing your reading. I just feel like you are into the book and you are experiencing that space and you are sharing. I felt like, what the heck are you really reading, or you are transferring the experience of the book? I mean, it's just amazing the way you read. So amazing, and you are not rushing at all. I never felt like you rush. You're just so into reading. And so Mahita and Jora, thank you for accepting, and thank you for sharing that space. And George, the way you share, and the space that you share is the space of awareness. Your awareness, and you share without filtering. You just share and you're aware of it. Thank you. I just really love that. So I want to reaffirm. Thank you for accepting the invitation and come today and read and share about you. And the next one I would like to acknowledge is Damian Costa. Is that correct? Is your name Damian Costa? You're so fun. You're so fun. The moment that you receive, like you laugh and like, what the heck are you guy? Like you just laugh. It's like, this guy can be like, I love to be with. It's so fun. Thank you for reading, and thank you for being here. Your story is amazing. And Elizabeth, thank you for I really love you. I really love the way you share. It's kind of, I can feel the depth. I can feel the depth of the when you shared it. You are, I don't know how to explain that. It's the space that you share is really different. You have a power of deep depth still. I don't know how to explain that, but you are really different and powerful. Right now, I don't know how the word to describe what you're sharing, but it's very still. I love that. And in the end, I would like to thank you all, who you are, wherever you come from here to like, where you come from. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking part of this book reading experience. And can I share what I learned today is where do there's just two questions that I want to ask myself. Where do I create myself small? Where do I create myself limited? And where do I create other people small? And where do I create other people limited? That's what I'm going to like dig deep down and learn more after today. And I would like to invite you all for the next book reading. The next book reading is going to be on the next Wednesday. And the chapter is about listening. And wonderful that we're gonna, our guest reader gonna be Ankush Rain and Nasara Ashem. So I would like to invite you all to welcome for the next book reading. And thank you all. If you want to stay more and share more, we have a after party. So please stay tuned. I love you all. Thank you very much.
At this time, I invite everybody to turn yourselves off mute, and you can say see you later or goodbye. And if you will be joining us in the after party, please do. We will open up sharing without video on for the next 30 or 40 minutes. So at this time, you can unmute yourselves. If this will be your departing way, then again, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully you will stay for additional sharing. Thank you.
Ahoy! Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Damien. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining us
thank you.
today.
Thank you for joining us, George and Nick. Love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.